All right, y'all start on time and end at a reasonable time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. So here we are. Welcome. I'm glad you guys are here. So tonight we are going to spend quite a bit of time talking about the number one item that came up as far as our 774 comments from citizens through all of those town hall meetings that we had in the fall. The number one, infrastructure. Employees came in at number two. The infrastructure, the way it was divided between roads, water, and wastewater. If you didn't look at the data carefully, you would think it was number two, but it's actually number one. So we're going to look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then we have some individuals who are here also that want to talk about the issue of homelessness. So after we're done with this, then we'll move into the discussion of and what we might come up with to help with that problem. All right, so welcome. We'll pass around the golden
I don't think
microphone.
your microphone's on.
Oh, thank you. Shoot. You think they heard?
Yeah.
Well,
I think
well,
it's-
nobody's on there. Okay,
There you go.
is it on now?
Did you do the bottom one?
Now.
There you go.
Now, okay, but you need the golden microphone because even if nobody's on Zoom, we have our City of Alpine YouTube channel and people are watching them. Welcome to the City of Alpine YouTube channel. You can go in and you can see the number of people that have viewed it. All right, so anyway, when you would like to speak, just we'll pass the microphone to you. Please speak into the microphone so that it does record. That way we can go back. So I even go back and look at some of them sometimes. If you would please stand, let's do the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Okay, all right, so thank you. I pass it to you first. Okay.
You can hold the mic, I don't think I'll need it.
Okay,
I speak pretty loud, so I think everyone can hear me okay. We don't have anyone on Zoom right now. So tonight's meeting, we've kind of been going through this in a little bit of a process here. And we've been gathering a lot of the citizens' input and thoughts and ideas and what do we need to do moving forward with the city of Alpine. So the next step, we learned that we need more meetings. We originally scheduled 4. The thought process was that each of these, we would gather enough information and kind of have an idea of how we truly wanted to form everything. And as we went through these meetings, we learned there's a lot of step 1B, step 1C. We need plans, we need policies, we need procedures, a lot of additional information. So as we've gathered all of y'all's thoughts, we've gone through and kind of said, okay, we need to continue this and build upon it. Tonight, our focus is just on one part of the strategic plan that's been brought up at the top of the list, and that's the infrastructure. It's been the most talked about. The mayor did mention that employees did come under that too. So for tonight, what we're gonna do is I have a little cheat sheet, but I'm really asking the public's opinion of our strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities that come with our infrastructure. So this is a SWOT analysis. This kind of gives us, where do we lie with our infrastructure, water and wastewater in specific, So over the past October, November, December, January, now we're in February, almost 6 months, we've collected all of your thoughts and we've put together kind of what could be our strengths, what could be our weaknesses, our own little SWOT. And so tonight, what I'd like us to do is all kind of talk about how you see the infrastructure, what you think is a strength that we have, a weakness we have, a threat, an opportunity. I told Marcy, money is all of them. It's a strength, it's a weakness, it's a threat, it's an opportunity. It is everything when you look at our current situation. We wanted to build upon it and get your ideas, but we also have some, conversation starters, as we call them. One that I would like to throw out there for Marcy, and she's gonna be our note taker, is when I look at the infrastructure, Mr. Nixon brought up the concept of a development plan. I think putting a strategic plan together, evaluating our infrastructure, provides an opportunity for the city to look at a development plan. And the reason why I feel it's an opportunity is because we have situations like we're dealing with right now, with people wanting to build, wanting to bring in housing, wanting to build outside of our ETJ, outside in the area, and we can't provide those services because we don't have a real development plan. How do we expand? How do we continue our water lines, our sewer lines, our gas lines, our roads? Do we get them annexed into our city limits? So all of these are items I feel it's a great opportunity if we had that development plan. So I'm gonna let the mayor kind of pass around the mic. And I really would like everyone's input. We do have some city employees here. What are your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats that you feel come with our water and infrastructure? And if you need some coaching, don't hesitate to ask questions. That's what this is about. But we want to kind of start plugging in where we're at with that. Who would like to go first?
Just clarification, do you want me to write development plan?
Yes.
Megan, excuse me, I don't want to go first, but is what we're talking about in this packet?
Yes,
And where would I look?
so that is all the comments and information that's been provided by citizens since
Right.
October. So those are all their ideas, things that we need to improve, things that they'd like to see. And what we've done is the first page with that pie chart gives you kind of like, what is our biggest conversation? Where do we start? And so the infrastructure ranks the highest. That's our water lines, that's our wastewater lines, that's our roads, that's our gas. And so over the past 3 workshops, we've talked about how do we make changes, what do we need to make changes, how do we improve it? And this could be additional data sources. This could
So
be.
you're asking for further comments on the.
Yes.
pie chart. Thank you.
So what do you think of as a strength? Is there anything with our infrastructure currently that we have in place that is a strength?
Some new roads.
It exists.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
We can be simple. It
Yeah.
exists.
And some new roads, yes. That's right.
I'm gonna give it, yeah, I don't want that. A strength that I see with our infrastructure is our gas department. Our gas department works in a preventative stage, not an emergency stage. So they're not at the top of our infrastructure problem, which is wonderful. So that's a strength.
May I ask some questions about what I just said?
Yes.
Okay, one of the things that I have about roads is that there doesn't seem to, one of the things I have about roads is that there does not seem to be any plan. Our road, one of the worst in town, was done last summer, I guess it was last summer, after being told for 3 or 4 years that we were next. And I don't know whether, whenever I ask these questions, somebody says, well, look at the city website. Well, how many people look at the website the first thing in the morning? I don't either. So. We're talking. I wish there were a way to, what would I say?
Okay, can I fill you in or fill
Yeah.
in your words here? So what you're telling me is the weakness is the city doesn't have a plan itemizing or listing how we're going to improve roads.
I think.
Who
that's
do you
what-
address first? Who do you address last?
Mhm.
The city did do a rate study, or not, I'm sorry, a street study in 2019 that kind of went through all of our blocks and, good block, bad block. But there wasn't a full, okay, where do we start? Obviously, we want to start with the worst roads. But you're absolutely right. That is a weakness. We don't have a plan for our roads.
Thank you.
No, we may jump around a little bit here.
Yeah, so I agree that one of the strengths is the gas department. I think another strength is the roads team. I think Eddie and his team are a terrific group. Their issue is they don't have the resources to address it. But it's in terms of the skill set, I think that's terrific. I think there's a real opportunity in wastewater, water, and streets to provide real metrics about what it takes to maintain them and their improvement. So I talked about it a little bit on the radio show this morning. I think it would really be helpful for the city to provide data before the development plan. Because if there's data about, we know where the water breaks have been for the last 10 years.
We know where most of them are, not all of them.
But that's a hot spot. To identify those, I would say the odds are pretty high, that's where we're gonna break again. And so if the city were to say, here's our hot spots, it's no different than flying an airplane in an airport, you know what hot spots where there's potential accidents. I think the city would go a long way to say, that's where we should begin to address our most pressing issues, so we don't lose water. I think you can do that in wastewater, I think you can do that in the water. Those are opportunities.
Okay, so weakness is resources.
Yep.
We don't have the resource.
What type of resource?
He mentioned specifically the street department.
And it's financial resources.
Thank you.
And then he also mentioned the opportunity for water and wastewater for the data.
Right.
And you are correct.
And that's like an infrastructure analysis.
Yeah.
It's almost like the DENT plan for the gas. That's what they need to implement. For
Yeah.
their infrastructure.
I'm a citizen of it. You can go hire a consultant, go spend several hundreds of thousands of dollars to find out the infrastructure. I'm saying the city already knows a lot about what's happened over the last decade. Pull that plan together fairly quickly, you know your hot spots, that's what you're gonna go address relatively quickly.
And one of the things we did speak at one of our meetings is the three main things that affect the strategic plan. The money, that will be an issue, the leadership, and the administration and the employees. So Mr. Stevens is absolutely correct. Pulling the data is not the issue. It's having someone analyze it and put it together.
Yeah.
We don't have currently anyone that we could say, hey, take this and run with it. Council is very made aware, and I've made it very public. Our softwares need some help. We do need to go out for new software, especially with our utilities, because we are now contacting them on a daily basis with issues. I just sent out an email to council this week on that. So I think in this case, it's gonna be a weakness and an opportunity.
Okay, I wanted to add that a lot of the records haven't been kept. I talked to the former director of utilities, and he said it's not an easy thing to go and say, okay, well, we had water leak here, 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 and here over the last decade. That information simply did not exist.
No, it would be printing out all of the work orders in our system and having someone sit there and try to figure out the locations. We do have internal, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. We have internal issues with protocols. So because we've had turnover, you have an employee come in, you teach them, they're here for 2-3 years, and then they leave, and the next person doesn't get that knowledge. Currently, we have an employee who's been here 30 years, and the next highest ranking, 2.5. That's a huge knowledge gap. It's getting one person to give a team 30 years of knowledge. And they're not the gas department. They're not, in maintenance mode. They're in, oh my God, we got a fire here. Oh my God, we got to go fix this. Oh my God, they're upset. So it's really hard to get that knowledge base. So our current interim has really been helping with protocol. So when we have a water leak, it's making sure we record more information, more details to what happened. Is it a service line? Is it a main line? What are we doing? What did we do? So that when we go through our work order system, we can pull all that data and plug it in. Leak investigates don't always mean we have a water leak. And so it's making sure we distinguish between those two items. So that is some great information right there.
Okay, so just to clarify, what I'm hearing is that we would need staff to sit and go through all those work orders. And we're currently understaffed just for day-to-day operations.
Yes.
So wouldn't that be a weakness? We need staff to be able to analyze the
Staff
data.
personnel.
Yes, because our software doesn't do it.
And if we were to get new software, I do want people to understand there is a price tag with it. It does come at an expense. I'd love the Cadillac software. I'd like the one that I can go in and print reports and it gives me anything and everything I want, and I can, put different fields. I want to know how many water leaks have been on 7th Street. And it would just pull that information and let me know. We currently don't have that. So when we look at software and we go out for that RFP, I really am, it's the ticket price. What is it gonna cost us? I think the city does need to invest because we have had a lot of public comments and outreach and, hey, let's do better. But it comes with that tag. And so we have been working, Marcy, diligently. What money can we find that it doesn't cost the city anything, that can cover, software?
Yeah, Marcy's our grant writer. Before I pass it, I just want to mention one other thing. Also, we do not have any information, maps, data, anything that tells us exactly what we have in the ground and exactly where these things are at. Is that not correct?
We have outdated. And it's kind of funny, this week, I'm gonna throw this out here, this week I reached out, our planning and zoning map is outdated, our annexation map is outdated. Our water map, I encourage all of you to go to our water department and access the infrastructure maps. And you will see where they have penciled in, where they have colored, there's a manhole there, believe it or not. The city did reach out, they tried their best, we went out for an RFP. An engineering firm was awarded the contract. The whole concept of this was specifically to get an inventory, a map, an asset list. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. We received a bunch of shape files that no one can open. We don't have the software to open them. We received the same PDF maps that we had given them.
And it cost us $80,000.
And so, yes, we did settle.
Why did we pay them?
It ended up.
It was going to a lawsuit, it was mediated, and that was the settlement. They were asking for more.
Okay. I think-
Mine was just a quick touch up on the new software. Being here for 23 years. When we transferred to a new software that we found, it's actually decent. But I get a little bit worried about the new software because we have everything in what we work with now to easily transfer to a new one. So it would be a lot more work for us. Do we need that right now?
Well, the thing of it is, if you want to go with a new software, if you want to go with a new software, when the gas department opted to go with Assist, it wasn't a turnkey. We actually physically had to spend hours after hours. It took us 2 or 3 years just to implement everything into that software. And then it didn't end there. Ended up where we had to go in and create our work orders to fit specifically designed for every task that we do. So in order to do a turnkey like Megan is talking about.
Oh, no, there's no turnkey.
Well, I'm just saying, if we were to opt as a city to try to get a turnkey where everything is already implemented for us, they just come in and say, okay, it's here, this is what you gotta do. I'm sure that the price would be way, way up there.
So just a little history for everyone. The city's water department, one from the old software when I first started, that the gas department had been previously on as well, to the same software the gas department switched to. We had to actually transition twice. It was a very long and hard process. We put in probably about 8 months of additional overtime just to correct the simple things. The last name was the first name and the first name was the last name, and these things really mess up the system. And we still struggle. There's still the occasional account that will pop up and we're like, oh, we didn't catch that. How do we fix it? Accounting is a whole nother issue and concern. But you're right, there is no turnkey. It would be starting fresh and starting new with the new software. But hopefully it would be at a little bit of a higher level so that when we want to do our billing, our work orders, we're more connected, we can talk. Currently, every department has a different type of software. No one communicates, which means there's a lot of room for error because there's manual entries. So utilities is manually entered into finance. And so we do have those concerns, but you're absolutely right, Brent.
Hey, Dallas, and Darren, and their Joy.
Just 2 things. Well, we were talking about citizen input on the water situation. Citizen input on the road situation would help you a lot. Because if you don't have enough people to do the job, then get the people who live around town to tell you which roads they're traveling every day and they just lost their car. And then you have a list of what doesn't work and you can go around and check on it. Then you can add, you can say good, better, best.
So I think that's a great opportunity. I also want to add to your comment in regards to what you had mentioned with planning and working together and the community is when we pull up a road, let's fix the pipe underneath. Let's not put the road in and then come in and cut it because we have a leak. So I think that kind of ties to what you're saying.
That's happened in
Not
front of our house 3 or 4 times.
32 cuts on the block. So yes, I understand.
We live close to each other. The other thing I was gonna say was, we do not want to be the Southwest Airlines of small towns with absolutely rotten communications. So it may be that we really should go for the Cadillac and get everybody in the same car. And then we're not running around going, well, I don't know, because that doesn't work. And we don't look great out there.
So I'm gonna take it, communication's a weakness.
Well, what I'm saying is,
Well, it is.
you've got 15 departments and 15 different software programs.
Software.
You can't even,
Well, so we'll put software communication
Well,
together.
you can't even imagine that they're going to communicate.
You can
So
put both
why
those in
you-
opportunities.
Definitely opportunities. And you'd made a comment, and I'm trying to remember, but there was a threat in there. No, Randy. The threat with the software is that transition. If it doesn't go well, I do feel like that's a threat because we may come to a standstill. And we may
Well,
not be able to do the billing. We may
it
have
might-
issues.
But it might be worth the city's while to hire somebody who knows how to do that.
Well, as far as the police department, we had a program, we thought was gonna be the Cadillac of record management systems. And we ended up having them for only 2 years and went back to what we had.
It's a lot of research.
They promised, made all these promises, and we're gonna be the far West Texas agency that was gonna help them get the rest of West Texas. It didn't turn out that way
It
at all.
didn't happen. Is it noted, do you know that there's a trend here?
Right?
Okay.
It was Aaron.
Who is
Aaron
Aaron?
said,
I was just gonna say a couple things on software too, that with the school district, we use SIS, student information systems, and those can cost quite a bit. And there's always a couple of big dogs out there that actually do a lot, like Skyward is a big one out there, and then Texas is another one. So there's a couple big ones out there. And I'm wondering if that's the kind of thing. The other thing when you're talking about software is if you're not paying a lot, then their margins are lower, so they're not actively developing it. So when you do pay more cost for things, they're developing it and theoretically, advancing it and everything else. But sometimes it's not bad paying a little extra for good stuff.
Would you speak into the mic?
Oh, yes, sorry.
you're the IT
Yes.
specialist for AI.
Yes, I do IT for the school
So he
district.
knows all about software.
So the one thing I was gonna say, my philosophy up there with the school district is buy good software and then get trained on it, get really good at it. And that's like when you buy good stuff, then and you keep it in perpetuity because you have that lost cost when you retrain people every 2 to 3 years. And the last thing I was gonna say on the software side was just, we have that huge backlog of all the stuff when you're talking about water hotspots and everything else like that, where you're gonna continue to have a backlog until you get that system in place with the software and start actually reporting it and getting all the data moving forward. So I think the software side is gonna be a very important piece.
Are y'all doing here? I mean, is the microphone on?
Well, you have to
Speak into it like this. Okay. Yeah, right like this. Who's next?
Joey?
At the last city council meeting, you mentioned that you needed to, this is how loud I am, that you had to start tracking on a federal basis all the water pipes and everything. And I'm wondering if you could combine the two efforts and have citizens start to say, this is my pipeline, blah, 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 so that it abides by the federal, but then also would relate to the city. And I'm just wondering, since the state has huge surplus in their budget, what efforts have been made to tap into that? And if we could do something in regards to that.
So to the first part of your comment was the lead and copper rule revision, which was passed by the EPA, is a unfunded mandate currently. And what we're doing is we're putting together a letter to send out to all of the residents in Alpine saying, hey, help us. Can you tell us what's in your ground? PVC, is it steel, is it copper? And if they don't know, they can put unknown. We are allowed by law to indicate unknown, because we really don't know. We just have to provide the EPA an actual list of what they are calling an inventory of all these lines. And then how are we going to move forward to replace them, to find out if they're unknown? So the first step, and it's not just the city side, it's also the residential and commercial side as well. So we have to know what the private side has as well. So the first step is to put out a letter asking the residents for help. You know, do you know what your lines are? And then start collecting that data. And the easiest way it's been explained to us, we've done some online workshops here, more recent than ever, to have a spreadsheet. Make it simple. Just have a spreadsheet, put all of your residents, put all of what you think your lines are, and then just start putting unknown. And they even said, put a little category for each one. You can mark it unknown, steel, copper. So yes, we are working towards that, and we are gonna ask the community for help.
You combine the two efforts and say, have you had water issues in your area, and have them relay that as well when you write them the letter?
We could, that's a
Yeah,
great
you could add
idea,
it on
we
there.
could. I like it, let's put it on for ideas somewhere, kind of on the, flip the page up. We wanna do that now, we don't wanna wait.
I think that's part of the infrastructure analysis, potentially. Yeah,
Well, we wanna have, it's an action item for me.
okay, yeah.
The second part of that, yes, a lot of money has been coming down, especially from the federal level. Unfortunately, being located where we are and not being a major city like Dallas, Houston, we cannot apply for funding directly from the federal government. We actually have to apply from the state. Currently, the Texas Water Development Board is the agency that money is being funneled to, as well as TCEQ. They work hand in hand with each other. There's been some applications come up, most of them, they're revolving fund, their safe drinking water fund. They're all an application that gets ranked, and then it becomes either a grant loan, or 100% loan. Currently, we don't have a plan to present them for them to be able to say, okay, this is where you rank. It would be a lot of, well, we think it might be. We're not, don't have that pretty shovel ready package, but we aren't out of the loop on this one because we can continue to apply. The money's typically always there. Right now, though, the bigger cities are unfortunately getting the bigger chunk.
And there has been effort currently to ask for it regardless of whether or not you know where the needs are, because the infrastructure needs it, period.
So we haven't been able to apply for a PIP for a project because we don't have enough supporting documentation to complete the application. But we have on the wastewater side. We did apply for a PIP last year and we're scheduled to try to do it again this year. We just haven't ranked high enough to follow. We have a strong need for our community, but we're competing with the state. Believe it or not, there are people out there worse off than us.
One threat would seem to be the TCEQ fines that we might get from a wastewater plant that's not in compliance.
It's wastewater and water. We can get fined both sides.
And the city, that's a history for the city, correct?
Yes.
Over the last decade?
It's probably been about 15 years. The city has regularly been put into enforcement. We've come up with projects to get out of the enforcement. We've paid upwards to $40,000 to get out of enforcement, but then we get put right back in. So we band-aid the enforcement and don't address the full project.
So I see that as wasted money.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, for fines and stuff like that.
I was wrong talking to the side.
I think we have two threats to talk about that are kind of elephants on the table. One is lack of focus. There are so many things that need to get done. If the city doesn't focus, nothing's going to get done. And so to me, that's a huge element. I think the second threat is employee knowledge and turnover. While it's a weakness, without leadership, nothing's going to get done. And so in my view, one of the things the city can do is say, hey, these departments are percolating along fine. Let them be, let them continue so that the leadership can focus on those areas that are big. We know what the list is: infrastructure and employees. And I think when there's focus, the strategic plan will settle in fairly quickly.
And that's why we're having these meetings.
Oh, I know, yep. But I worry there are, in the categories of the pie chart, there are like, 36 or 38 categories. And when you begin to focus on those top four, well, it really begins to focus on where you spend effort.
So this strategic plan is only focusing on two. It's focusing on infrastructure and employees.
Okay, I didn't understand that. So that's in my mind, really good news. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, just the two. And step one may be, what is our plan? Do we want to do it in-house? Do we want to hire an engineer? Can we gather enough volunteers to help us? So that's why we're doing this, is to see who in the community wants to join us in our endeavors, because we all live here.
So I have a question. So thank you. So
Supposing we come up with something that everybody agrees to, how do we put it in stone that regardless of turnover in council, we stick with it?
So unfortunately, that's not something that I can tell you with full heart that it's gonna be stuck to. Councils turn over, city managers have turnover, staff turns over. This is why we are at where we're at today. Because you have people who come in who have great ideas that don't get to fulfill and continue those ideas. So council will approve the strategic plan. There will be kind of a priority, there will be a goal, and then how are we gonna meet that goal? What, I wanna say tangible if you want, items. This is where the public is the key. This is where the public is gonna come in and say, oh, well, I remember, and you approve, and where are we at? So it's really important that the public fully participate, and we have great crowds. When I started this, and I planted the seed, we need to have a plan. Oh, if we have a plan, what plan? The whole concept for me was if one person showed up, I did my job. Because there's been city council meetings where no one shows up. I did budgets for years with the city managers for the budget workshops. No one would show up. And now we have this active participation with our community and we don't want to lose it. We have employees who are actively invested with the city. We don't want to lose them. So the whole thing for this to really work really is for our public, for our citizens to be like, hey, I remember. As city manager, it's my job once this gets approved is to keep everyone informed, to sit down with council, hey, we had a hiccup. Unfortunately, we had 3 water pumps go down and our focus, as Mr. Stevens says, has switched away from the strategic plan because we have to focus on the situation. We want water to our residents. But it's that communication. And we've been doing that for some time now. And it's encouraging because look at how many are here tonight. I was sick the last one, so I wasn't here.
Yeah, no, I know, Megan, this is the most active I've seen the community engaged in this, in the process. And so, kudos to all y'all that are doing this and running this. I'm concerned, my concern is, well, how do we, back to what you were saying, community engagement, how do we get that? How do we get that?
By sitting there in that chair and making sure whoever's sitting up here is aware that you're invested.
Okay, I'm gonna get 5 of my best friends. If everybody went to get 5 of their best friends and their family, then I think we have a chance.
And unfortunately, and this is hard, and people say, talk about transparency. We are in a negative state right now because we're not sugarcoating it. We're not hiding it. We're presenting it all. We know we have problems and we're telling you guys, we have problems. You've told us for years and we're agreeing with you. So now it's bringing all that information back out. But even if your 5 friends don't show up, that's 5 people who drive these roads, who turn their shower on and stand there like, guess I'm not bathing today, who are actively seeing the issues that will have that moment where they're like, enough's enough. I'm gonna go to that council meeting and I'm gonna complain. You said you were gonna do this. Where are you at? The hardest part is the city has said, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Well, now it's not a matter of we're gonna do it. We have to do it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Do you?
So I was gonna make a comment. Weakness, we have no KPIs.
Let's not use acronyms. Somebody knows.
Keep KPIs a key performance indicator. Every department should have them. And to your point, we all ought to know what they are. And the city ought to report on them relative to water, wastewater, roads. These are very simple things and they ought to be tied to the department budgets. And when we know what they're at, then we can hold the city accountable. But right now, we just don't know what they are.
That's the next idea.
That's a good opportunity.
I was gonna say one thing is an opportunity too, is our demographics as far as reaching out for grants. I feel like, you know, with maybe certain neighborhoods where you can actually get more grant opportunities or anything, like Presidio too, you know, they receive a lot of grants based off of demographic makeup.
So, I also have to, as I get on all of it, grants. We no longer qualify for economically distressed community. Our makeup as a community as a whole has exceeded their threshold. So we lose a significant amount of points when it comes to ranking of grants. There is a very small portion of town. This was seen with our last CDBG grant when they replaced the fire and added fire hydrants on the south of like Ferguson, that street, that area. That was the last grant that really qualified. Unfortunately, when we look at grants that require that type of requirement, it's only a portion of our town. What Marcy has been really trying to do is find grants that we can apply to the city as a whole.
Megan, I have a non-related.
Hold on, I'm gonna do the magic. Mike, come on.
This speaker is, sounds like there's an animal trying to.
Which is- There is.
Let's do it when we speak, though, because Karen's on it.
So,
George,
I'm not familiar with Sul Ross, so I don't know what students do there, but I do know that there are colleges that would be thrilled to have their MBA students or whoever kind of student that's interested in like civil planning or whatever to take our town on as a project. And you could probably get it for free and have support or whatever via that. And I'm just curious if that has ever been considered.
So we do have a working relationship with Sol Ross, especially with their political science, their business departments with interns. Gio and I probably reach out every other month. Hey, we want an intern. Hey, we've got an idea. Hey, we got a concept.
That, right? We're in.
I started here as an intern.
Yes.
So yes, we do work with them and we do pull them in. We're not always very successful. We don't get a lot of interns our way. For whatever reason, people aren't doing internships as much, but we are actively working with them. We're also working with the Texas workforce. They have a program with their high school students that they can come in and help with different projects and needs that are completely paid by the workforce agency. So that we can kind of get them to help us with some of the things that can help build our plans, provide additional workforce. It's a good program.
Well, what about UT though, or whatever it is down in Austin?
We have not reached out besides Sol Ross, but that's a good idea.
There are programs that kids do.
I know Sol Ross brings in a lot of students from other areas for their geology program. We have probably one of the best, I would say Texas, maybe the nation, geology programs. Our Center for Big Data Studies has a really good program.
Megan, one of the things you might try with that internship is turning that into a course so that people are getting academic credit for being here.
That was the original purpose of our internship.
Okay, well, what happened?
To get college credit.
Right.
I don't know how Colossus curriculum really works. When I graduated with my MBA, I took an actual internship with the county and got college credit for it. That was some time ago. So things have slightly changed there because when we get them, the first thing they ask is it paid? So that's a little complicated to have a lot. So right now, I don't know if they're offering a college credit.
the last intern I had, received college credit.
Yeah, why wouldn't they? I
I think
mean,
it depends on the professor. honestly.
Right, and thinking about that, this summer, Kaylin, my daughter, was an intern at the recycling center. She goes to A&M and they gave her credit, college credit. So we could reach out to these colleges or maybe even just the students. If we can reach them directly, that might even be better. Because it wasn't that A&M told her, hey, here are some opportunities and look, here's one in Alpine, here's one in Fort Stockton. It was that she found it and she got credit for it.
So I'll see Carlos and Bernie next Tuesday. I'll just ask them point blank. Carlos, the president, Bernie's the provost.
Somebody else has it.
Thank you. I've heard some discussion here about the contract that went into litigation. You were supposed to get plans back and everything. And it seems like the oversight maybe to contracts or to jobs being done isn't here because we have property in the city, but I do live out on 1703 and there's been numerous times that the water line is broken out there at 1703 and we don't think it's being repaired properly. So the oversight in getting the repairs done right or the contract of the job done initially, that seems to be kind of a weakness.
There's a threat.
Or a threat, I don't know, but I think we're losing a lot by poor oversight in contracts or and jobs. You know, this goes to the state too, like paving jobs that all of a sudden are falling apart really quickly and road repairs. You don't have the road bed prepared properly in order to have a road that's going to last. So until you go through and prepare something right, the pipeline, I mean, we've lived in a lot of places that had a lot worse conditions than this.
But we don't need to be there.
We don't need to be there, and it's because of poor oversight. So I guess that's a threat or a weakness and also this litigation, you lose money.
I agree with you 100%. I think it's a threat and a weakness. And an opportunity. So a lot of our water lines, especially 1703, were put in by private contractors many years ago.
But you need the oversight when they do that job.
And unfortunately, I can't answer for the past. I may not have been here in Alpine.
Yeah.
But currently how we repair them is we put a Band-Aid, you know, we put a clamp on it, we connect the pipe back together. In order, and this is why we're doing this, is if we want to repair our infrastructure, we want to pull up blocks at a time. We want to put in all new. And to Dallas Baxter's comment, you know, it's the communication, you know, all the departments working together. If you're going to replace a road, you're going to want to replace something else, your gas lines, your water lines. Your comment was right on. Unfortunately, I can't answer for the past, but I know as we plan and we look at grant funding and we look at how we can, you know, cover these projects, I don't want to repair 2 blocks. Let's repair 2 miles and have it done and have the oversight. Have who's ever in office, who's, you know, city manager, who's the utility director out there and be like, why are there rocks in the bed? Why did we dig it all out and put it right back in? Because that is our water leak problem.
Well, I think in the past, there was different regulations. There wasn't no need for oversight. Dig up the trench, put in the new line, and we pay you for it. Now you have regulations that you dig up, you find rock, you have to put bedding, you have to put sand to protect that infrastructure so that you no longer have those issues. But like I said, in the past, we've encountered that in the past, to retire service, we have to go to the main and literally cut it out. Back in the day, that service, they would go dig that riser right next to it, fold it over, and that was retired. And so now you can't locate it because there's nothing to connect to. And the only way that you're gonna find it, you're gonna walk around that house, you're gonna see, oh, there's no gas here. Go ahead and start digging, boom. They hit a gas line, that's on us. And the fines are on us because we failed by not knowing it was there. But actually, back in the day, because there wasn't those stiff stipulations that no, you have to get it out of there. It was okay just to fold it over.
My favorite in regards to our utilities is when we are in country club estates and we have a water leak and it's at the side of a mountain. And to get the equipment out there, and then you go to open it, and it's, oh, wait. You have water, sewer, and electrical all in the same trench. It's really hard to fix. So it takes us longer, and it's frustrating. Our employees really do want to go in, get the job done, and go home. And it's hard when they're having to wait, and they're like, well, how are we gonna get around the electrical line that's running this way and our water line running this way? And you bring up great example, and I think that's great that we're getting it on here. I really appreciate it. And 1703 is a problem.
It is.
Well,
I'm McBride.
there's been certain spots. There's certain spots that they seem to repeatedly break there. So even if you could fix
So
at least that, well, not just the clamp, if it's a bed, if you could go ahead and prepare the bed, but not even if you could do it in sections. I know that's expensive. That's not the best way to do it. But when you got to put the clamp on. I've watched them. We've been here 8 years, 9 years, and I've seen a lot of clamping going on 1703 and often in the very same spot. I was going to start keeping track of it, putting it on the calendar, and I could report it to you. Well, I'm going to start putting it on the calendar so I could come in and report. Well, actually, I try to call in and say, hey, there's a leak out here. I've been known to do that a time or two.
And just know that whenever they do go in there and do a repair, they're pulling out all that rock and then they're going in with just dirt.
I know.
They're not just throwing it all back in there because that would be.
But are they doing the bed prep, the proper bed prep that they need? That's what, it's hard to tell.
And they prep it like it's supposed to be at that repair. But the thing of it is that, okay, you fix that spot, but what you dig out in this spot is obviously all down that pipe.
Oh, exactly.
And the stress relief tier means the stress is still continuing.
Exactly.
About.
But no, I understand that. Yeah, but sometimes I haven't seen all of what goes back in the material that's going back in. I haven't stood out there and watched. I go by a lot.
If you see the
But I'll do that.
They're loading what they take out, then the dump trucks are coming back around with.
Okay, I've missed the
And
dump
if you
trucks
see
coming
them
back.
Scooping it back, you call me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
No,
well, then we'll bring you coffee. What kind?
okay. Anybody else?
So I kind of want to read some of the, was there someone else?
Yes, me and then Darren.
Okay.
Or you can go first.
I guess I just had one question on, I know with, when you're measuring water, a lot of times I'll have like in your yard or enterprise versions for if you're doing park systems for irrigation, they can measure the amount, the thresholds that go through there. So you can actually see when there's leaks without having to wait and stand around and see the water percolate to the top. So I'm wondering, I almost think an opportunity is that we do have to replace so much stuff. We're replacing with modern day stuff. So
Yes, you have to.
and that's beautiful. So whatever's out there technologically wise, that could be for sensors or anything else. I mean, we can take if we could afford it, the most modern things and actually implement those when they're still relevant and current.
So a little information as a resident. Although we ask you not to tamper with your meter, that is a violation of our ordinance. If you wanted to know if you had a leak, you would be able to open your meter, you can see it, it will spin. It will tell you that there's something wrong. On the whole system side, we have one individual, and we're training the second, that spends his whole entire day, morning and night, on our SCADA system. Our SCADA system is telling us where the water's moving, how fast it's moving. We are a gravity fed system, which means these tanks that you see all over town, those are our storage, and then it comes down through our system. When there's a leak, like we had on December 25th, we got a kind of a phone call, sitting there, I was like, oh, what's going on? Oh, well, there might be a leak. No one at this time knew where it was. Johnny Marcus did get on the line on his SCADA system. Oh, we have a leak. You can see those levels drop. You can see what we call a flow trend. Actually, it's going along great, and then it will nosedive. Locating the leak is the hardest part if it's not coming up above ground, because then you have us all driving around looking for it. Right after that happened, 911, or not, I believe the non-emergency line, don't call 911, was notified that, hey, there's a pool by the federal courthouse. Just wanted you to know. That's when we learned that we had that huge leak. It was an Olympic sized pool almost. It was huge. A line did break. When they went to pull it up, what's the first thing they hit? Rock. And so it did impact our lines, and we were unfortunately having to do a full notice. But we do monitor through our SCADA system, so we see those trends. We see if we have issues with our water. Residents can do the same. I know sometimes people will get water bills and be like, hey, you know, what's going on? Our meter readers are being trained that if you see a meter doing this and there's no cars, let's note it. Let's contact the homeowner. So like, hey, you might have a leak. Because at the end, it's their expense.
So Karen, I'm going to get to you next. Karen Cantrell has her hand up online. So I wanted to mention, somebody mentioned the word volunteers. So we have a new process in place where we are accepting volunteers. Megan has the paperwork that you would need to say that you won't sue us if you stub your toe or something. But yes, we accept volunteers. We had a volunteer that repaired the clocks downtown. And whatever your talent is, talk to us. We may have something that you can do for us to help, because we are understaffed and we do need that help. Okay,
Is that a strength or an opportunity?
opportunity.
Okay.
Volunteers.
Well, if we have them,
Well,
put in both.
yeah. Okay, Gio, can you allow Karen to talk? She has her hand up.
She just needs to unmute.
Okay, Karen, can you unmute? And then you have the floor.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. One thing I would like to ask is there an IT department at Sul Ross?
Yes.
Yes.
So there is an information technology department. That would
Yes.
include a programmer or teaching programming, correct?
Yes.
Why can we not ask the programmer teacher to look at a program that would be suitable for some parts of the city? Is he allowed to do that kind of thing?
He is, but we would still have to follow the procurement process.
I understand that, but that might be a more cost efficient way than going out and searching through thousands of companies to get a program. I've worked in a company where programmers were in our company, and we helped our dealers learn the programming for our products by giving them classes. We had IR strings. We had RS-232 strings, blocks of commands that you could fit into a program that would control a whole house. So I know what can be done. Darren knows these things too. So I was just wondering, maybe if you could approach him and offer him some compensation for his help.
I think that's a wonderful idea. They wouldn't be able to help with our current software because those are all patented and regulated, which makes it wonderful. But I think the partnership with Sul Ross to help them with the research would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, is that as a resource for information, it makes more sense than as a resource for programming, because like I think of Michael Deering, who did a lot of really good software programming. He's one guy, he retires and the support's not there. So as Darren was saying earlier, you pay more money for a company that's actually going to stay in business, that's actually going to support the product on an ongoing basis.
If we would have kept Mr. Deering, that would have been awesome.
Mr. Deering moved to India for a short spell, which made it really hard for customer service. We were on that software for the utilities when I started here. And of course, as things started to fall apart, there was no one who fixed it. And then the financial side, unfortunately, the software was switched due to some internal poor oversight, and the finance person had background on programming on the Deering software.
I know nothing about software, but
I know nothing about software, but it makes perfect sense to try to be sure that you're not doing hopscotch from program to program to program through people who don't know, they do know, they don't know. I mean, crazy, and it wastes your time, it wastes your money, and it doesn't get you anywhere. So while it looks like, oh gosh, it's gonna take time, it's gonna cost money, it may well be worth it.
The return of investment on a software that is user friendly and easily trainable is definitely worth it. The one thing we've learned with the softwares that we have is there's no user manual. There's no like, here's how you do this section. There's no step process. And so that makes it really hard because we've all kind of done a screenshot and highlighted and made notes and then pass it to the next person.
Well, now, wouldn't that be an opportunity to say, we're not gonna even think about using you unless we have.
A user manual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why there aren't.
Softwares, I know, the USGI software we use, they really want to.
When I worked at a medical center, they had a strict protocol on what everything was for the junior and senior medical journal. And because of that, they actually had a manual that you had to follow, so you knew this is how it was done, blah, blah, blah. And I don't understand why there isn't something within the city for each department to describe, this is my responsibilities, these are my duties, this is what I do on a daily basis. And if it's a matter of hiring a writer to interview somebody and write it or something, I just feel like to say, oh, well, that person left and now that knowledge is gone, doesn't have to be the case for the future. You could have something that would pass along.
Like job SOPs.
It'd be SOPs, just standard
Yeah,
operating
exactly.
procedure.
Okay.
And every
Sorry.
department is currently updating and working on those. I know Randy has that, he does them annually. I know Chief Lasonia has been doing that. I know our water utility and wastewater have been doing that. But yes, we are working in that direction.
I was just going to say a couple other things on the tech side of things, when you pay for good software and everything else, but also if you don't have an internal IT system or somebody with that knowledge, then get a cloud-based system. So it's all on the internet, and get maintenance agreements. And that way you have support for it the whole time. So when something goes wrong, you call your virtual Mr. Deering, and it's the actual company over there doing everything. And I could just imagine also, you know, when the gas company or the water company is coming through, all those things that are built in, when there's a hotspot or when they're actually there on site, and if they had a cellular iPad, boop, 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 they type it all in right there and things. So there's a lot of things out there, I think, that could be solved by getting a good software package.
Will you not go away?
You're supporting the, let's be in the 21st century concept. Ideally, we would like to switch it where our work orders aren't paper and pen, that they have that tablet or the smartphone. You know, we do issue smartphones to our city employees that they can pull it up and it's instant. It's right in the system. It's not, I'm gonna print this out, give it to the worker's gonna complete it and give it back. And then we have to have someone put it back in the system. These are all things we've definitely talked about and thought about and we want. And, you know, technology is changing and we're moving fast and Alpine's unfortunately been a bit behind, and this is our opportunity to get on that track. So when I come to council and you guys are all in here for that approval, remember this meeting. Well, if there's no more comments currently, well, Karen.
Karen now has one, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Karen.
Go ahead.
Megan, have you ever considered having tribal knowledge systems? At the company that I work for, we started out with slide projector remotes, and we morphed into a company that did computer systems, all control systems for churches, convention centers, and smart homes. So we had, but some of that old product was still out there and we had to support it. So what you can do is maybe get the tribal knowledge system going and find out, save that information from yesteryear.
What do you mean tribal knowledge?
Tribal knowledge is the knowledge of the old systems.
Historical.
Oh, okay.
Where
I do have Mike Deering's hand notes on how to code our finance system. I do have that.
It's similar, yes.
Yes, no, I like your idea. I did ask our supervisors and directors and managers, along with what you're saying, Karen, what are you using now? Where are we
Right.
at? Is it Excel? Is it, and so they've all provided me that so that when we go out for any type of system, we can say, okay, this is what we're using. How can you improve it?
Excellent. That's what I mean.
Yeah, poor Daryl, Excel. We have Riley. Oh, and Rick also. Who was first?
Other than the airport, who else are you using during?
No one, which is why you're not allowed to touch your computer. The conversation, you're scaring me.
That's one.
That you're the only one left, which is why it's been really hard to provide resources. Because if we lose it, you have no system to track your fuel and your system.
I mean, that's why we keep a backup deal hooked up to our computer.
Now Abel's been lucky because he scared me one time.
Yeah, no, I was there when that happened.
Yeah, we thought we lost it.
Yeah, it disappeared and actually we never found it.
So it's very
We had it
scary.
back up, we connected it back up, we got it back up, so, but we have to keep that connected, because if we disconnect it, it disappears again.
They're the only department left.
And they are the
Airport. So the airport, just a little background information, their software monitors their fuel, their sales, their inventory. And it's really important, especially from an accounting perspective. So when they lose that and it all becomes done by hand until we get a software, we're gonna have two really, really knowledgeable people out there on how to do spreadsheets and keep track.
So when are we gonna do the SWOT analysis for employees?
So that will be at the next meeting. We haven't currently scheduled them. That's part of the conversation tonight. When we set all this up, the first go around was the initial get your information. We did 6 because there's the 5 council members and the mayor. We started off with 4 to see how they would be attended, to see what the input would be like. We're gonna give ourselves a little bit of a break, a few weeks, maybe a month. We want to start plugging in a lot of the information and providing some data back to the public as well. Marcy is kind of my go-to and last minute, can you do this? So she's been doing a great job. And then we're going to reschedule a whole nother group of them. So we really want to focus, or I would like to really focus on one, get some good data information and then go to the next so that we're not trying to do it all at once. The end game plan is that the strategic plan would be part of our budget process, our year end, and then it would be effective October 1st. October 1st is when the public would, I want you in these meetings saying, hey, whatever happened to this? Where are we at with this? If you ever have 2 a.m. boredom, the city of Salina has a strategic plan dashboard. They're a wonderful city to go and look at. Their focus was because they went from like 6,000 to like 30,000 people. They had a huge influx of growth. But on their growth plan, I'm sorry, on their strategic plan, theirs is all actually, you can see like little red. And that means there's something happened. And then you can click on it and it will tell you, it's delayed because of resources or delayed because of, refocus. So they actually outline all of theirs. Our first strategic plan won't be as detailed and beautiful dashboard, but there will be the monthly, quarterly kind of reminders of where we're at. So it's all tying together. We want the strategic plan to influence the budget. We're not going to budget just a pot of money. We want there to be the obtainable goals so that, if Dallas comes in and says, hey, what happened to that street you were supposed to fix? Or what happened to that water line? We can say, this is where we're at. This is how it's being monitored. The plan is designed to develop every year and grow. It's really important that I can't stress it enough. This is the first year. The city's last comprehensive plan was in 2011. I have a copy of it if you would like, and you can see all the things that were never completed. We want to start small. We want actionable items. We want to be held accountable and then develop every year. We want it to grow 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 50-year strategic plan. A lot of cities are moving this direction because it's really important that they have that input from their residents. We live here. If we're going to change your property taxes or if we're going to change something, we want you to know why. We want you to say, okay, because it's going towards infrastructure, well, different part of it. Roads though is that part. Your property taxes are roads. It's your employees for some departments. So we're really trying to build this in all together. I know it's a much longer answer than you wanted.
That's okay. What it did help identify was another weakness or opportunity, to your point, which I think is terrific. The city needs to do a better job with its council to get them up to speed about what the plan is. So that when people come on board, they're part and get up to speed as opposed to, hey, I got this brand new idea and it starts all over again. So I think the weakness is the city does a terrible job of transition. As a former council member, I never got asked one question.
Bingo.
So I think as even an employee, it's the same idea. We do not transition well. One of my dream items, things that I'd like to do is at the next city council meeting, first one in March. I'm gonna do a year. Where are we at? What have we done? How have we addressed things? Gio and I had put together kind of a welcome aboard packet for council. We didn't execute it because we didn't have new council. The mayor got half of it.
Yeah.
She got half of
It's
it.
good, yeah.
But we want to have an onboarding for council. We want it where they come in and we sit down and say, okay, this is everything going on. And of course, all the legal side of it, please sign here, please fill this paperwork out and that. So it's been on our plate, Rick, and we're excited to move forward with
But
it.
what you guys gave me, it really helped. The onboarding that I got, the PowerPoints, the links and things like that. So I came in feeling like I knew what was going on.
Second weakness, I don't think the city has a way to share their strategic plan with the city of Alpine. Unless you've already got a format and all that stuff, you just talked about it, it'll be kind of whatever. There are those mechanisms out there today. I think the city ought to look fairly quickly about how it's going to share, particularly when you get into the KPIs and all those other elements. That ought to be a solving the problem very quick.
So the strategic plan, the final product will be on our website. We're looking at having it published in little binders or not binders, you know.
Let's get a format of software system so it's easily updated.
Yes, kind of. The city of Salina has been helping me to be able to do that in-house. I'm not a graphic designer, but I know someone who is. To do it. I'm sorry, I hadn't told you yet.
There are no doubt people who'd be willing to volunteer to help.
Karen, so.
Oh, yeah, Karen, I mean, that's something I do all the time, so.
Oh, no, I was saying she had her hand up.
No, no, sorry, that's
Which Karen and Dallas, I think, had a comment. Okay. Karen?
Yes. Since Rick brought up the council, I'd like to make a comment. The council could do more by asking more questions on certain items, such as, why do you need a C1 replat in a residential area? Another thing, during the information and discussion phase, maybe they could discuss it a little bit so that we, the people who are going to wind up paying for it, would actually know what it is.
And so
That's just one thing. I think then you would get people more interested in the city and in what we're doing and what we're trying to do. If they actually have some explanations and discussion about these things.
Karen, I hope to see you Tuesday, because if you have questions, you're more than welcome to raise your hand and the mayor may call upon you during
I'll
that
be
information discussion.
I'll be there.
Oh, I do that.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, just a really quick thing. I was not asked to sign in tonight. So nobody in this building knows how to get in touch with me. And it would be nice if we all were on some kind of a thingboppy, so that every time you have one of these meetings, we all know what's going on, instead of, oh, someone told me they heard it on Facebook.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Gio created a sign-in form. You have to stay to the end. That's the way we hold you here.
What I'm also hearing is we need to have a type of like email newsletter.
Yes.
I think that's a wonderful idea. councils in the past had discussed something. I know, former councilman Olivas had wanted kind of like a quarterly newspaper or whatever for the city.
Well, the city needs to be more proactive in pulling people in. You cannot say, I understand your problem, but you should work, you should look at the city's website. Nobody's gonna do that. They want to be told. They
I
just
remember
do.
that, Dallas. I have your email.
I know, but that's not the thing about this. I mean, Catherine and I have already gone around and around about the big leak. It, we resolved it, but you know, it's
It's a great idea. No, it's
there are a lot
start.
of choices in communication. That's the problem. And there's no one way.
No, and
There are multiple.
we've learned that no matter how hard we try to communicate, someone has said, what about the carrier pigeon? Because no one listens to the radio, or they don't read the tape, or I only read the Big Bend Sentinel, or I don't read the Avalanche, or you need to email me. I don't look at my water bill, I get it online, or I don't get emails, or. And every time we try something new.
Well, that's good. Keep going.
I would like to know how many people participated in this.
And
172.
so they're given 15, an estimated 120.
Out of 6,000 people? Is it just, they were the only ones that responded, or was that,
They showed up.
We showed up.
so you had to do it in person?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So this was the first year that we did this. We tried to do it as simple and not I won't say it's easy, but for us to manage. We had some great feedback from a couple of residents as far as like online surveys and additional ways. This is the first year we wanted just to hit the ground running. March, it was kind of like, oh, we're starting, which we wanted to get. And as we develop this year after year, it'll become a bigger and bigger. So before we switch subjects, I kind of wanted to go through what has been talked about at the prior workshops. So that we can kind of get them, sorry, let me just finish up the noise and then. That's good.
You're running out of chairs.
I am, you're right. And if you ever want to see, most of these do hang from my office as a friendly reminder. So some of the things that had been brought up, and I was trying to start the conversation at the beginning, was the development plan. You know, if we're gonna continue to grow Alpine and bring people in, what plan do we have? How do we support businesses in the infrastructure? We talked about that. Another item that had been talked in previous, and I actually love this one. And the reason why I love this one is because when we look at infrastructure and employees and just the general Alpine area, and people want to know, you know, market values and comparable to other industries, Alpine is different. Alpine's unique. Our housing market isn't the same as El Paso, San Antonio, Marfa. And we're not compatible. So we had a resident suggest a cost of living study.
Not comparable, I wouldn't say compatible.
Comparable, thank you. It's been a very long week. But having that cost of living study for Alpine, what does it cost for someone to live here? And the mayor reached out, I don't know how the communication started, but the SBDC
Small Business Development Corporation.
have volunteered to do a cost of living study for us for Alpine.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
So
right.
ultimately, we're gonna know, what does it cost? If we're paying an employee $10 an hour, $13.50 an hour, $15 an hour, can they live here? We know that we do have a large section of law enforcement, Border Patrol, FBI. They come in, and their wages aren't, you know, the same as what we start our employees off at. So having that is gonna be important. Part of the plan, part of understanding where we're going. We don't have an estimated time. I did have to do some paperwork to get that kind of the ball rolling. So hopefully we'll know something. Another item that was brought up was the utilities rate study. So Marcy did a wonderful job and reached out to, and I'm gonna say it wrong, Communities Unlimited.
Oh, you got that this time, hey.
Which is an organization that helps local governments and nonprofits put together information to borrow money. And a lot of times when we go to borrow money, especially with a water development board, they want to know, what are your rates? When did you raise them? Are you covering yourself? Are you not providing enough? Do you provide more? So they've taken our information, and initially it was just on the wastewater side. The big one, the project I would like to see in my lifetime is the wastewater treatment plant. It's a $4.6 million project, just to get it back to where it needs to be.
4.6 million last year at this
Yes.
time. I keep having to tell you that. Costs have gone up.
So it was really important to, are we charging the right rates? The city went from a fluctuating rate schedule based on your water usage to a flat rate. Is it really covering where we're at based on all of our operational demands? You know, we have parts of the plant that are falling apart. Everyone who's heard on the radio, Facebook, and the newspaper, you know, we had a sewage spill out at our wastewater treatment plant, 179,000 thousand gallons. That's a lot. That's human waste that spilled out. We're very lucky that it was confined to just our wastewater treatment plant and it didn't go beyond. But it's important that we can fix it. So the utilities rate study, we've gotten a draft copy of it. There's still some things that need to be changed based off of the fact that the city did make a decision in last year to change the water utility rates for this year, not the usage of the water, but the base rate for the meter. That little increase is a big impact on our resources and our funding opportunities. We have a little bit of extra money. Let's invest and let's be smart about what we do with it.
What did it go from to?
It went from $7 to $9 for your normal resident. It's based off of the size of the meter. So every meter goes from like $7, $8, and then we did a $2 increase on all of them. And that included commercial. No one went, was left out. Everyone got it. But it's a big difference when you have almost 2,900 accounts. And so this is a slight increase. We didn't hear or see a huge uproar. A lot of people did question, hey, my bill went up. And we would explain what happened. The biggest change in your utility bill isn't your water, it isn't your wastewater, it's your sanitation. Your sanitation is the largest part of that bill, and we are under contract. So the utility rate study is definitely something that we'll see within the next couple months. We just have to update some of the information. They did a wonderful job. They're also willing to help us if in the future we decide to go out for any type of grant or loan program. They work closely with the USDA.
And Texas Florida Development Board.
Yes. The mayor and I were very fortunate yesterday to attend, Valentine's Day, to attend a meeting in Presidio with their underground water district, where we were provided additional resources with the Water Finance Exchange Fund. That he kind of, little heart palpitations here. Yeah. Will help you with your engineering plans. We will pay for them to be done.
Yes.
They only ask that if we do go out for funding and we do get the funding, that we repay it. To me, that's a win-win, because we're not guaranteed to always get the funding, but if we do, when we apply for that funding, we know in our head, include that extra cost. And then it's just reimbursing them. So really excited for that as well. I know a lot of things that were also brought up in regards some of our billing and meter reading challenges. This is the first month that we actually have all of our meters read, and we're only on the 16th of February, which means we still have 2 weeks to review and to make corrections and to evaluate. Typically, our readings are completed the day we do billing. And when we complete on the day we do billing, there's no time to be like, oh, wait, there's a mistake, we gotta fix it. It's get the bill out. That also provides 2 employees to help with all of our other things. Our tap assessments, our tap installations, our curb stop replacements, our unfortunate water leaks and sewer backups. So it's adding that additional staff. What was great about that is the team is becoming a team. They work together. Not all happy about it, but change is always hard. But they accomplished something that hasn't been accomplished in a very long time. And so I'm really proud of them, and we hope that that continues. So that when you have questions about your billing, you're not coming to us because it's something that, oh, well, it wasn't read. You're coming to us because you really want to understand, well, how did this happen? Or what's going on here? So that's really important. A couple other things that you guys have brought up that Marcy's supposed to be putting on our squad here. Oh, I'm just kidding. That I kind of wanted to address. In regards to our,
Just take that paper. and stick it
yeah,
up
there
there.
Yes. Things that we've talked about that I wanted to bring up tonight, just so that everyone knows what we're talking about here. The support for the community. I've been in Alpine for 20 years. I have my 2 masters from Sul Ross State University. I've been in local government for 21, and this is the first time I feel like we're a partnership with people, that we're working together, that we want to better our community. And these partnerships it's Sul Ross, it's the Alpine ISD School District, it's Brewster County, it's some of our nonprofits. So you have your historical association, you have your downtown association, but Rick, did you all change your name?
Business Alliance.
Business Alliance.
Yeah, ABA.
You have the
Alpine Community
Thank you.
Projects is a big one. I want to give a shout out because they're the ones that got with AISD and have brought childcare to Alpine starting this summer. And now Alpine Community Projects is working on getting a nursing home here, but not just any nursing home. It's the greenhouse. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but what it is it's like a house. And you have 10 to 12 elders living in that house. They have their own private bedroom, their own private bathroom. The table is large enough that they could all sit there together. And then each greenhouse for every community is a little bit different. In some communities, they have a swimming pool. That probably wouldn't be wise in the desert. So others, they have a garden, and maybe we could do something like that. But that's what we're looking at bringing here. We're working with the hospital district. We're going to go in front of the hospital district board next week and ask for funding for stage 2, which is an in-depth analysis of the area and what we can support and how many of these elder homes we can support. So that is exciting. That is very exciting, y'all. And then, of course, we have hospice here now. Yes, and that is a big one. Okay, sorry, but I'm just so excited about it.
And then what's great about this is all of this communication has been part of these meetings, these plans and these discussions, because everyone's realizing, we hear it, but no one's acting on it. So the school district's acting on it, the hospital's acting on it. We have organizations that have been created specifically to act on these. The senior care, childcare, we want a skilled workforce. Well, and they say you get what you pay for. But it's hard to pay someone when they come here and they don't have childcare. Where am I supposed to leave my child if you want me working 8 to 5? And these are conversations that, the hospital really, has issues within the school district. And, we've been fortunate at the city that we do some flexibility with our schedules and allow, parents to work different hours. But not everyone can do that. I mean, I'm going to call out Grisel Gonzalez. She's kind of my go-to for everything at this point. And she couldn't work from home. I had her test every day for COVID because she couldn't work from home because she was doing accounts receivable. I wasn't gonna say, oh yeah, just go to her house and drop off the money. It's hard because you have that employee who may need it. But we managed through it. Some of the other things that have come out of this, of course, the staffing and hot funds and utilizing those better. A lot of our non-compliance, what are we failing in? Why we're doing this? So we can call it out and we can have that conversation. A lot of it was also our employees, which is the next part of this plan and this strategy, is we're not the only ones. Alpine definitely has the turnover. We have a low unemployment rate, which of course we're all like, how? We have all these positions. But unfortunately, it's hard. I've been a big supporter, and I've told council repeatedly, I'm not going to force an employee to stay. If they can better themselves and their family and they can get a higher paying job, because we can't compete. I can't compete with the federal government. We hated to lose a dispatcher to Border Patrol, but get $29 an hour starting pay. No, I'm not, no, you have to stay. No, we want to encourage it. And so part of the discussion with employees is maybe we're the stepping stone to the future. Maybe Alpine is, we bring them here, we get them trained, we help our community at the same time, but we watch them grow. we watch them expand and go to a larger city, or maybe they specialize in that field. I'd love our water department people to develop into plumbers. How many here have problems with getting plumbers? And the wait list, you know, I got a water leak, I need you here. So we're looking at that concept as well. But I'm really encouraged with everyone's comments tonight. We're gonna start putting this together kind of in an obtainable item so that we can present it. We will send out notification and any format you would like, including email, for the next go round, so that we can start looking at our employees. That was the second highest item. I know it's a little misleading on our pie chart, but infrastructure actually had multiple little categories. It's just kind of how we were classifying. But if you take infrastructure as a whole, it bumps it to the very top, and then our employees come in underneath. Go ahead.
Can you set a date soon? That would be helpful so we can plan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We're really
April,
excited.
right? April.
We're aiming for April, the very first week of April. Depends on how we kind of get together and get things laid out, and maybe a little bit earlier. We're trying to give us time. For those of you who don't know, we're still in the middle of an audit. It's a little time consuming. I know Lisa and I were here till 11 last night. Joey's. So we're kind of balancing our time between that and everything else. But we're excited. Like I said, this is just the first step. We want the involvement in the community. But we're not the only ones suffering with employees. I've had conversations with Dr. Hernandez and Dr. Reinhardt and the county judge, former county judge. But what do we do?
Well,
We're
even
all going through
yesterday,
the same people.
yeah, even yesterday, the current county judge, remember he was asking, do we know any interns? Do we know? Do we know?
Can we borrow your grant, Roger? I said, no, don't. We want to share, but I'm very limited on her. She's part-time. So when we do utilize her.
And then, y'all, he tried to steal Megan away. So I had to put on the gloves.
But we are encouraged because we're all talking. And we're all suffering with employees, and it's all the same type of employee. It's that labor force. And so we're hoping by having these continued conversations that we can help the county, we can help the schools. I'd love to have a regional paving team where we all work together and pave chunks at a time. Not something that will happen in the next year or two, but you know, if the county's team can come help us, maybe we can go help them. But these are talks that we're currently having. So I know there was a few other topics that people wanted to talk about tonight. Was there anything else anyone wanted to add? We're not done, but.
I just wanted to ask, if the senior living, how is that gonna be funded? Would it be like Medicare, just like nursing homes?
Oh, yeah, so that they can hear.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Golden microphone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I was just curious.
Insurance,
Uh-huh.
Medicaid. Texas unfortunately ranks 50 out of 50 as far as Medicaid.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing. But there are other programs, for example, Wichita Falls is using another program which bumps up the amount of pay that they get from their Medicaid. So Medicaid, Medicare, private paid.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's what I was curious about, whether it's just people that can afford it.
Yeah.
Or prefer to have mom there or something.
Right.
Right. A while, yeah.
I watch videos of other cities, somewhere in Wyoming, Sheridan, I believe, maybe. Anyway, it was a video of their group of people working about 3 minutes.
Oh,
And they had their ups where it's, oh, this is, and then they had their downs where they were sitting there crying. I don't know what we're gonna do, how we're gonna get past this hurdle. And it took a team. So we're gonna need a team. Volunteers.
Yeah.
Volunteers, doing phone calls, talking to people, doing whatever they can. Yeah. So I'm super excited about that. We're in the beginning stages. We already had one market analysis where it looks like it's doable, that we can probably have 5 of the homes here that would be sustainable.
Wow.
And now it's time before they'll move into the next phase with this in-depth analysis. And so that's going to cost, I believe it was either $9,000 or $9,500. And so the president of that association and myself will speak in front of the hospital board
hospital district board next Wednesday or Thursday,
Okay.
and we're gonna ask them for funding, so.
Well, will this just be for the elderly that are, they can still take care of themselves, or will it also be memory care?
Well,
Or
the
someone's,
dream would be that we would have some of all of it.
all that,
but
yeah.
We'll have to see.
Okay,
What we can do. We would like to have some memory care reports. We'd
Yeah.
like to also have more like assisted living and
Mhm,
things like that,
mhm.
but it just. we'll have
gotta
to see.
start somewhere for sure.
Yeah, so I'm
okay.
super excited, y'all, go look it up, it's
Okay.
on YouTube and it's called Greenhouse. It's exciting, I saw the information to my mother, and she's like, oh my gosh, when did you get this started?
Yeah, well,
So it's
good.
very super exciting.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I was also,
Well, just to add to the litany of community nonprofit partners, the library also, in addition to, the amazing kids programs that Mary Beth Garrett has always done, the library recently has gotten a grant from the Isleta School District to do adult education. And they also just became a Pearson testing center. So yeah, another thing that's kind of on the table for all of us.
yeah, and they do, y'all have a wonderful adult education
Yeah,
program.
it's growing a lot.
I mean, it's phenomenal. The other thing I was going to mention is as far as staffing and workers, there are other opportunities. We can list this opportunity that we're looking into to
Should I
see
just
how.
like catch up real fast in case you hang up there?
You can. Other opportunities that was brought up at our last strategic planning meeting by someone, international guest workers, where they come here and they're here for 3 years or assigned to one specific company or the city or whatever it might be. So we're thinking about that with this greenhouse project too, because that's going to be another problem or threat is staffing. And so we're going to look into the international guest workers, where we can bring people from other countries here to fill those staffing needs. But another part of that greenhouse is the staff is consistent in each home, so that it becomes more like a family between the elders and the staff. So that's another opportunity.
So if you're not aware, Presidio ISD actually does have international teachers that do come over and they do house. I've sent a few like, hey, how's the program work? Thinking not from a teacher perspective, but is there a way to bring over individuals? We unfortunately can't house them, but maybe that's some additional staffing for the city, Sol Ross, the school districts, that we could tap into as well.
Right.
Are we still discussing pros and cons and all that good stuff?
We are, if you have more comments.
I just had a question because,
It would just be nice to feel proactive so that, because I live next to Dollar General and all of a sudden stuff happens, and it would just be nice to know like what's next so that residents could be, what's the word, aware that, okay, on this week, we're doing the cement, or this week we're doing the boulders or whatever, just that residents could be alerted. So that either if they can leave town or whatever, and also that the time would be adhered to so that there is some sensibility of respect for the surrounding community that's constantly being disturbed. And I don't care if you guys work during the day, but it's just these really freaky, weird hours that wreck people's sleep and mental health and all kinds of stuff. So that's all.
What'll they like when they run well? You live right there.
not written down. It is. Okay. Opportunity for proactive or being proactive in awareness of construction activity. And I'm the one that types all these, so I can read my own shorthand. Generally, most of the time.
Well, then this, like I said, this is just one step in the process. We are far from done. But I do know that there were some other topics that don't necessarily kind of apply to what we're currently doing with the SWAT. that we have some residents here that would like to discuss. So I'm actually gonna let the mayor, follow up with that.
Okay.
And just make sure you sign in and leave your email if you want to continue with the discussions.
Is there?
Okay, Dallas, do you want to take it away? Because you have a lot of great information. Sure. Yeah. I was going to say that Dallas sent me an email with kudos.
Oh, well, I'm gonna interrupt. Ju has it printed for the next one. Sorry, we misinformed you, but I got some plain paper.
Oh,
You'll put
okay, it's
your
my
name and
mistake,
your
sorry.
contact. I jumped the gun, I apologize.
But anyway, Chief, she sent you so many accolades. Dallas did that email. I'm super impressed with the job that you were doing. Thank you.
Can I say something and then I'll let you go? We have a real gem of a chief of police, so.
Daryl.
Yes. My name's Dallas Baxter, and this is Kathy Wright and Kathleen Griffin. We are all gardeners at the Railroad Park Garden. And all of this happened, and then I'm just want a little intro here. All of this happened because there has been a gentleman living in the garden close to the native plant plot for 2 or 3 years. And it has recently been that he has become less and less unnoticeable and has been doing things that are turning people away from the park, including the gardeners, which is not good. And something to keep in mind, which the chief told me when we were talking the other day, happily, there is a law that you cannot take somebody from where they are and just drop them on their heads. You have to give them a next place to go. And this is very good. I don't know, does this apply to Texas, Alpine, Texas? Okay. And so the chief has been, first of all, he knows everything and he knows all of the homeless people in town, which is what he's supposed to do. I'm glad you're doing that. What we're tackling is the fact that while we don't have many homeless people around here, we do have some. And we need to have some way to humanely take care of them. You can't just throw them out. They're human beings, just like we are. And we need to be compassionate about them. And unfortunately, they nearly always have mental, drug, liquor, whatever. There's always something that keeps them from living a better life, I guess I would say. So I'll give this to you to do with what as you will.
I'll just add to that real quick, because I've known Miguel for 3 years now, and I've had long conversations with him. He's an avid reader, and I read the book every day. He's gone downhill, he's got liver cancer, according to Miguel, he was a Vietnam vet. He's like 77 years old. He's a nice man, but I have stopped going, and I told him this too. He said, I knew you're not coming around. I said, because I am not going to tolerate seeing you staggering and exposing yourself because you're reading yourself in public. And he said, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again. Well, that was 3 months ago, and evidently people are seeing me doing it. So that ruins the park. People can't do, we paid money to have Winslow train there, and we've done so much to make the park attractive, and the mosaic thing at the front that I'm responsible for a lot of that. And so now we don't know what to do with Miguel, because like Dallas said, he's a human being. He's a nice man. He waters, feeds the birds. He really does, until he started doing these behaviors that
I think
just can't tolerate.
I think the chief has some solutions.
Oh, okay. I mean, I just wanted, because I've been involved with him for a long time.
Right. The first time we started talking to I never knew him as Miguel. I knew him as his correct name. And the first time we started dealing with him was he was squatting over across the street from McDonald's in that little triangle. There you go. Yeah. And so I was out for a run one day and I heard some rustling in the leaves and turned around and looked, I could see a person in there. Then followed up when I was working and then made contact with him. One of the things that I explained to Dallas, and I spoke to Morgan today, and she was planning on attending, but she said she was satisfied with my conversation. She emailed me, and so you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? And so that's most of the time that's the problem that we have with the homeless. We can provide them all the resources, and a lot of times they won't take them. And the one thing that I've learned, I received Dallas's email was in reference to the hotels. A lot of these hotels won't take these homeless anymore. They've had them before. I have resources that I use, and they're from now, just recently they reject some of the homeless, and so that's another problem that we have. Currently, he is housed for until the end of this month.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, and so I got some assistance out for him, and we yesterday I mailed off a letter to the state where he informed me that he was born. He's been very actually active in getting this done. So we filled out his birth certificate form to request a birth certificate. And so once we get his birth certificate, we can get him to housing. And so I've also contacted the VA in reference to his DD 214 to get him another form of identification. So we've taken a lot of steps to try to help him out. I've used a lot of resources, and he's been very accepting of him, and so hopefully he continues. Again, we do have him housed until the end of this month, and hopefully everything just moves fast so we can help him out. Contacted Alpine Housing Authority, and they are willing to assist as well as soon as he has a birth certificate.
Yeah.
So.
He was born in Mexico.
But that's what he's called out.
There are some. Yes, you can. Yes, ma'am.
So it's,
Thank you so much, because I have a heartburn and I.
Right. He is not a Vietnam veteran. He is, so
Not a rancher from Chile.
I'm not too sure. I can't.
so is the strategy, house them to the end of the month
Yes, sir.
with hopes then of being able to have something permanent
Yes, sir.
based upon getting birth certificate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to think about, like it or not, and I know there's no money, et cetera, but we will have homeless people here. They cannot sleep in the parks. There's no place for them. We have no money to build a shelter. I mean, it's the perfect storm. We need to be thinking about that. I don't know that we will have X number of homeless people at any given time. How many do we have now? About 6, 8?
I would say right now we have 4.
4.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
So it's-
And a lot of them, from our conversation, they have family.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of them accepting their family and accepting the assistance.
And very often the family comes to them and they will, you know.
Right.
It's the story that you've heard a million times and now it's ours.
The sister of one of them she has my personal number. She called me if there's anything that she can help him.
Okay.
She mails care packages to the police department, and we deliver it to cell phones, clean clothes, and she wants him to go with her. But he refuses, and he has a father that lives in Fort Davis, and unfortunately.
Well, we need to have some way to deal with this. This is not dump it in Chief LaSoya's lap. I mean, he does have a whole city to deal with. And I have no suggestions. I have no ideas. I have no nothing, which is unusual for me.
I was yesterday in the vet office. I said, "Dallas, Dallas."
And just like I told Dallas, I explained to Maury, my door is always open. If there's a problem, within my community, please come see me. I'll try to address it as fast and as appropriate as I can.
Could you speak very briefly if there's any change in the camping site out on the cemetery road? Where are we with that?
I've been trying to help them for a long time.
Is everyone aware of that? If you want to
Yes.
recycling.
They are actually in county easement.
Sorry.
They're located currently in county easement. And so the sheriff and I we're worked together. We even talked to them and tried to work ways to eliminate some of their debris. He had some inmates go out there. We loaded it up, took it out to the recycling center and disposed of it there. Again, those are the horses that we can't get to drink. So
What type of ordinances or protection is there for the citizens? Because it does cause a health hazard eventually.
yes, ma'am. And that's actually one of the things that I was talking to Gio about is start working on something on that. Okay. Right now we have.
Didn't have that, and I would hate to see this little town explode with crap just because there's no protection.
Right. Again, we trying to be respectful and try to assist appropriately.
I don't want citizens to think we've never had homelessness
I'm
because.
sorry, could you speak up?
Or use the mic.
I know you've been talking about.
I don't want citizens to think we've never had homelessness. The city has had homeless individuals. We've just been able to deal with it a little bit differently. Some of them, we've been able to buy a bus pass and send them to the destination they're trying to get. Others, I know Daryl has worked with to get them in a program that helps them, whether it be like AA and mental and things like that. We've had them in L-time. We've just been able to manage them and help them in the best capacity we can. Unfortunately, we have that handful right now that it does make it hard. We can't enforce our ordinances in the county. And so we can't enforce our ordinances in the county. And so there is jurisdictional issues as well. But Daryl has worked really well with the sheriff and trying to solve our current issue with the handful we do have. There are, and I don't remember which resident said it about what can we do. I know Dallas said we can't just not do anything. There are regional programs, of course, not in our region, but there's the Heart of Texas Homeless Association. They actually serve several communities to help address that type of thing. The Houston area has one, the Austin area has one. So there are programs that I think, wouldn't hurt for us to reach out and say, how can we get our community? It's not just Alpine. I know Terlingua may have some of the same issues. You just don't hear about it as much. We don't know what goes on in Marfa or Davis, Marathon, but there are programs out there specifically designed on a regional level because not any one community may be able to afford it. So just after your emails, a little research, like, hey, this is a good point. How do we address it? We don't know what to do like Austin. Austin is definitely suffering when it comes to their homelessness and some of the actions that their council has made.
Well, the other issue too is that tonight is cold. Where do I sleep? And we don't have time to wait for a program.
He drives around and asks them if they want to come and
I know,
sleep at the
but they
police
don't.
station.
So what do we do?
We can't force them.
Well, I mean, I suppose we could arrest them and put them in jail. It's one bigger.
Well, Ronnie or Sheriff Dotson is very sympathetic to them as well. He one of the guys I do know, he has allowed to go to the jail, get showered, get something to eat, have somewhere warm to sleep. And so the sheriff has done that. I don't necessarily want to be arresting somebody and then having to worry about an arrest and then worry about the conviction later on. But
Is Ronnie arresting them?
no, man, no, he's yeah.
They pretty much have an open invitation with the police department and the sheriff's department. that if they need some assistance or they need to help, hey, just come knock on the door and we'll do what you need.
So being at the railroad park, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of people come off the train when we have to respond to the Amtrak, where they're kicked off the train and basically they are left. For some reason, they decided to drop them off in Alpine and instead of El Paso or San Antonio Amtrak. And we take care of a lot of homeless that
Why is Amtrak doing this?
Because they get on illegally and we are the next stop.
yeah.
Or they have issues
And
with the individual and they
right.
don't want to deal with it, and so they.
So we'll provide them a bus ticket out of here if they're
What to say?
or if they want to,
Otherwise, no.
if they need a place to stay, we do provide a lot of housing for a lot of the people off the train. When I first started, we dealt a lot with the freight train riders. And so we used to do a lot with those. And so we don't deal with them as many as maybe a couple times a
Is there
year.
anything that citizens can do to help you, since there doesn't seem to be an instant solution?
Your name and number, and then I can call you to see if you're willing to make a donation.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, parents. I think if citizens are willing to help, some of the other organizations, the ministers.
If you, making donations to the Minstrel Alliance assists as well,
You want the donations to go to the ministerial line?
certainly, or to,
The editors.
or Saint Vincent de Paul, also from the Catholic Church, also helps as well.
Okay.
And so,
All right.
yeah. And so those are two organizations that I use.
Okay, I'll write a letter and run past you.
It's just kind of, it's interesting to me that all these months and stuff that I've sat and talked with Miguel, and he never told me anyone was checking on him. And I asked him, I said, you know, you really, if someone's gonna call the police on today. They said, oh, because the police, I'm friends with them. Yes, told me that.
Yeah, and just like we don't see everything.
No.
You know, most of the time, if I'm driving my personal vehicle, is when I see that drunk driver. And I'm like, where's the cops at when you need them? But yeah, if I'm out patrolling, most of the time I don't see it. So please do not hesitate. I tell everybody, if you see something, say something, because it's. Sure, I'll have, and I'll pass on my email as well. Please do not hesitate to contact me.
Because our parks should be, they are lovely.
I
They should be welcoming. And
I was on my bicycle a couple weeks ago, and I was using y'all's as a little course to try to get some maneuverability around with my old body. So went great. I didn't fall.
Show those videos later. Well, if there's no other discussion, or comments, please make sure, I do apologize on the sign-in sheet. I thought it was ready for today. If you'll leave your name and you want to be emailed, definitely let us know so that we can start working on that.
Oh, Karen, okay, Karen.
I'd just like to say that I'm amazed and grateful that so many people showed up tonight. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Karen, for always being so involved.
Thank you, Mayor. Good night, all.
Good night,
Good night, Karen. Well, then, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
You're gonna end these out the door. No.
It's like,